Chosen ones, there comes a time when even your soul whispers, "I can't keep doing this anymore." You've fought battles that no one saw, wars that never made noise, and nights that felt longer than years. You tried to be strong when everything inside you was breaking. You smiled when no one knew your chest was burning with unanswered prayers. There were moments when you sat alone in the dark, wondering if heaven had gone silent, if maybe you were forgotten. You looked at your life and thought, "How did I get here? How did everything that was once full of promise turn into constant struggle?" But something deep inside you refused to quit. That small flame, that whisper that said, "Hold on just a little longer." That was God keeping you alive through a war you didn't even know He was already winning for you. You thought you were being punished, but you were being positioned. The long fight wasn't meant to destroy you. It was meant to strip away everything that wasn't built on truth. Every time someone walked away, every door that slammed shut, every no that made you feel unworthy, it was divine protection. You couldn't see it back then, but heaven was rewriting your story. You were so focused on what was being taken that you couldn't see what was being prepared. The silence you hated so much was actually God's way of resetting your spirit. You felt like you were going nowhere, like your prayers were lost in an endless waiting room, but the stillness was not delay. It was alignment. You were hidden, not forgotten, set apart, not rejected. There's a difference, and one day that difference will make sense. You've been in a spiritual wilderness, the kind that breaks pride, removes distractions, and leaves only you and God. It's where He takes everything familiar so that when He blesses you, you'll know it was Him, not anyone else. You started to lose things you thought you couldn't live without, people you thought were permanent. It hurt, it left you hollow, but chosen ones, that emptiness you felt was sacred space being cleared for something greater. God couldn't bring new blessings into hands, still holding on to the old. That's why things began to fall apart. That's why you suddenly felt so alone. It wasn't because you failed. It was because the old version of you couldn't enter the next season. The battle you were fighting wasn't external. It was within. You were wrestling with surrender, trying to control outcomes that were never yours to carry. And when you finally reached that breaking point, when you said, "God, I don't know what else to do," heaven said, "Good, now let me handle it." You thought you were falling apart, but you were actually falling into place. Every tear was watering the seed of who you were becoming. You didn't lose faith. You were learning to trust in silence. You didn't lose people. You were being protected from wrong ones. You didn't lose time. You were being refined. But it's exhausting, isn't it? To keep holding on when you can't see the end, to keep believing when nothing moves. And yet lately, something in your spirit feels different. The tension isn't as sharp. The ache is softer. The same situations that used to shake you now feel distant, almost powerless. You're not sure why, but there's peace in your chest, peace that doesn't even make sense. It's like the war around you stopped without warning, and for the first time in a long time, you can breathe, but you're afraid to trust it. You're wondering if it's real, or if it's just the calm before another storm. Because every time you've felt peace before, chaos followed. Every time you've healed, something else broke. You've learned not to celebrate too soon. But this feels different. You can sense that heaven has closed something for good, yet you can't see what's next. You're caught in that sacred in-between, where one story ends and another hasn't yet begun. You're asking, "God, is it really over?" And somewhere deep inside there's a voice saying, "Yes, the battle is done." But how do you believe that when you've lived in war for so long? How do you trust peace when it feels foreign to your spirit? Something inside you wants to rest, but another part fears what happens if you let go too soon. What if the peace fades? What if it's not real? What if you're not ready for what comes next? The questions linger, and even though the storm has passed, your heart still trembles like thunder could return at any second. But maybe this isn't fear. Maybe it's something else, something sacred, something new trying to be born from the ashes of everything you lost. Chosen ones. What you're feeling now isn't fear, it's release. That unfamiliar lightness, that quiet stillness. It's the weight lifting off your spirit after years of carrying battles that were never yours to fight. You've been in survival mode for so long that peace feels strange, but this time it's not the calm before another storm. It's the stillness after victory. The spiritual war that's been raging over your life has finally been settled, and heaven has declared it is finished. You may not see fireworks or grand signs, but you'll feel it in subtle ways. A conversation that no longer triggers pain, a memory that no longer hurts, a sudden peace when you think of what once broke you. That's how you'll know. God has closed that chapter for good. And yes, some endings will confuse you. You'll wonder why certain people vanished without explanation, why opportunities that once looked perfect suddenly fell through, why doors you knocked on for years never opened. But someday soon, you'll look back and realize that every unanswered prayer was protection in disguise. God had to close that door because he knew your heart wouldn't have the strength to walk away on its own. He had to end the connection that was draining your soul. He had to silence the noise that kept you from hearing his voice. You may not understand it now, but you'll thank him later for what didn't work out. You were never being punished. You were being freed. The same God who allowed the storm has now commanded peace. The same hand that took away what hurt you is the hand that's now guiding you toward what's meant for you. You've learned what few ever do, that closure doesn't always come in words. Sometimes it comes in peace. Sometimes it's just a sudden knowing that you don't have to explain yourself anymore. You don't have to chase answers. You don't have to prove your worth to anyone. You realize that silence can be sacred and that walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom. This is the revelation moment. You see now that nothing was wasted. Every delay prepared your character. Every heartbreak deepened your compassion. Every loss stripped you of false identities and made you remember who you really are. A child of God, chosen, refined, and anointed through fire. You weren't buried, you were planted. The waiting wasn't denial, it was divine development. You start to understand that the battle was never about what you were losing. It was about who you were becoming. You've been transformed in the quiet places, molded in tears, strengthened in solitude. And now you're emerging not as the same person who entered the storm, but as someone new, someone who knows peace not as a concept, but as a presence. You are walking proof that God can rebuild from ruins, that endings can be beginnings in disguise. The pain that once defined you has become your testimony, and every scar now glows with purpose. You no longer need to fight for what's already yours. You no longer need to explain the journey to those who didn't walk it. God has already vindicated you in ways they'll never understand. The battle is over, chosen one. Not because you gave up, but because heaven stepped in. You've done your part, now let God do his. This is your time to rest, to rebuild, to breathe. Don't look back at what's closed. That chapter can no longer hold you. You've outgrown the pain, you've outlasted the storm, and you've outshined the darkness that once tried to silence you. Walk forward knowing that what's coming next isn't a repeat of your past. It's restoration, it's peace, it's purpose finally meeting you in divine timing. God didn't bring you this far just to end your story. He brought you here to begin a new one. So lift your head, chosen one. The battle is done, the war is over, and the victory is yours. You've survived the wilderness. Now step into your promised land. Breathe again, love again, live again. The same God who ended the storm is now writing the sunrise of your new season, and it's brighter than anything you left behind. If this message spoke to your spirit, share it with another chosen one who's been fighting in silence. Tell them the truth you've just learned. The battle is finally over, and God just closed that chapter for good.